Tariffs are sold to the public as a show of strength, a bold move, a tough stance, a way to win economically. But let's strip away the slogans and the talk about what tariffs actually are. And let's not kid ourselves. Tariffs are taxes. Let me go ahead and repeat that. Tariffs are taxes. Taxes not for a foreign government. Taxes not on overseas corporations. Taxes on Americans. Every time a tariff is placed on imported goods, the cost doesn't magically disappear overseas. It moves down the supply chain, onto retailers, onto manufacturers, and ultimately onto the consumers. That means higher prices at the checkout line, higher costs for small business, and thinner margins for American companies trying to compete. This isn't theory. This is how tariffs work. When you tax imports, you raise prices. When prices raise, purchasing power falls. When purchasing power falls, working families pay the price, and big. Now let's talk about tariffs as weapons in economic war. When tariffs are used aggressively, they send a message to the global market. Instability. Investors don't like instability. Capital doesn't like unpredictability. So what happens? Investment slows. Projects get delayed. Funding gets pulled. Foreign investors do not wait around to see how bad things might get. They move their money elsewhere, to more stable markets, to countries with predictable trade rules, to economies that aren't swinging policy like a blunt instrument or a chimpanzee from a tree. The capital flight matters. Investment is the fundamental foundation of economic growth. It funds factories, infrastructure, research, and jobs. When investment dries up, the damage doesn't show up overnight, but it shows up everywhere. Fewer jobs created, lower wage growth, weaker markets, reduced innovation. I'm an innovator. I love creating new things. I really do. Using tariffs this way is like taking a sledgehammer to the foundation of the economy. You might not see the cracks immediately, but over time, the structure weakens. And here's the most uncomfortable truth. Tariffs often hurt the very industries they claim to protect. American manufacturers rely on imported components. When tariffs rise, import costs, domestic production becomes more expensive. That makes American goods less competitive, not more. Some companies pass the cost on. Others cut jobs. Others may move operations elsewhere. Meanwhile, retaliatory tariffs hit American exports, shrinking markets for farmers, producers, and exporters who have nothing to do with policy decisions in the first place. So who wins? Not the consumer, not the worker, sure as hell not the small business. What tariffs offer instead is the illusion of control, the appearance of action without the substance of strategy. Real economic strength doesn't come from punishing your own population in the name of toughness. It comes from stability, investment, productivity, and the truth in the system. If tariffs raise prices at home, scale off investment from abroad, weaken long-term growth, and destabilize markets, then we have to ask the hard question. Is this protection or self-sabotage? Because an economy doesn't collapse all at once. It erodes quietly, policy by policy, tax by tax. And tariffs, despite the rhetoric, are one of the most effective tools for doing exactly that, destroying our own economy. And with that, remember, Scott for 2028.